Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my legal weekly presentation where I discuss important topics that have to do with personal injury and insurance and those things that affect my clients and their lives. I'm attorney Chris DeBerry, and thank you for tuning in. And remember, if you like the content of this presentation, please feel free to smash the like button, share, or comment below. And this is a presentation that's often driven by your questions, your criticisms, and what's going on in the lives of my clients. And currently, I'm going to be talking about a particular type of insurance. But before I get to that, I don't sell insurance, but you think I would because of the fact that I talk about it so much. But the reason I do is because insurance touches on and impacts the lives of my clients to such an extent, it's just never ending. And there's always going to be issues involving insurance as long as there are issues that involve personal injury. And those will include auto insurance, they'll include life insurance, homeowners insurance, and those are always going to be things that I'm going to be involved in as an attorney because of who I represent. And I represent my clients who are personal injury victims, typically speaking. So the way I look at insurance is something that you need, obviously. It's a necessary evil. An evil because we have to pay sometimes a significant amount of money for it, but necessary because it does protect us and, protect us in case the bad thing ever happens to us, God forbid. But the way I look at insurance is I kind of approach it from the standpoint of like the legs on a chair. You have your seat, but then you need the legs to support the chair. And those legs are made up of, one is auto insurance, another is health insurance, a third could be homeowners insurance. But tonight I'm going to talk about a fourth insurance that you may want to consider because it could be very, very important, as some of my clients have discovered, unfortunately, only too late. And that is gap insurance, or GAP as they call it. Essentially, guaranteed asset protection, or GAP, it protects the borrower or lessee of a vehicle that the person is purchasing or leasing in the event the vehicle is totaled before the car is paid off. And it does this ideally by paying the difference between the actual cash value of the vehicle and the balance still owed to the financing company after a total loss occurs. So GAP is mainly used on new or used vehicles, and some financing companies will actually require that their lease contracts carry gap insurance, or that their lessees purchase gap insurance. So when does gap insurance apply? Well, gap insurance kicks in at the time of a potential total loss. And folks, I'm going to have to plug my laptop in here for a second because it's telling me that my battery is running low. I feel like Mr. Rogers. Fortunately, I don't like to have to do this. But I don't want to lose you all in the middle of my broadcast, so please forgive me for a second while I do this. And that should take care of that. And we're back. So gap insurance kicks in at the time of a total loss. And a total loss basically occurs when a vehicle is either damaged to the point where it's unrepairable, or to the point that your value of repairing the vehicle, the cost of repairing the vehicle, is actually greater than the vehicle's value. And the way adjusters often look at this is when in doubt, total out. And I was actually taught that by my good friend and owner of Primo Auto Collision, Greg Jerkowski. When in doubt, total out. So oftentimes adjusters are looking to total a vehicle out if it's a close call. We have some people who tuned in. Oh my God, we've got Jeff Fulkerson is here, my good friend Jeff, former client and good friend. Jeff, thank you very much for tuning in. And Kat Medell and Terry Dunique are here as well. They're in the house. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Thank you very much. And I certainly appreciate your tuning in and your criticisms and comments. So please feel free to like it and share. But anyway, the car is totaled out if the vehicle is unable to be repaired, or if the price of repairing the vehicle is greater than the vehicle's value itself. And you see this often in cars that are a little bit older. Now, this determination of a total loss is usually made by the primary or at-fault insurance company's adjuster. And like I said, the common wisdom is when in doubt, total out. So what does gap insurance cover? Gap will cover the amount on a loan. That's the difference between the amount owed and the amount that's covered by the other insurance company's check, basically. And as you know, because you've watched my videos in the past, it is mandatory in the state of Florida that you carry at least $10,000 of property damage liability on your auto policy in case you cause damage to someone else's vehicle. And that's completely separate from anything to do with bodily injury. This is just a property damage issue alone. Now, gap is an optional coverage in the state of Florida, and it's also an optional coverage in the state of New Jersey, which is where I'm from originally, and a lot of my people tune in from New Jersey to watch this. So gap is optional. Gaps sometimes are marketed toward low down payment situations, high interest loans, or loans whose life will run over a 60-month or longer term. So gap insurance is typically offered by a finance company at the time of a purchase. And it's offered in those situations because those are the situations where somebody is most likely to wind up upside down in the purchase of their vehicle. So you purchase the vehicle and something happens that decreases the value of your vehicle, perhaps, and of course, that the vehicle is total at that point in time, you end up owing a whole lot more money on the vehicle than you have equity in the vehicle. So, that's one of the reasons gap is important. Gap is offered by finance companies, but insurance companies offer it too. And it's always a good idea to shop around to see where you can get the best deal. Usually pay for gap up front when you're purchasing a vehicle through a finance company, through your dealer. And you may even be eligible for a refund of gap in the event that you sell or refinance the vehicle. But be careful about refinancing the vehicles, because that's one of the reasons why gap could potentially be voided. It's an optional purchase, but remember, a lot of the states in Jersey may actually require, in the United States, might require the dealership to at least offer it at the point of purchase. Even though you don't have to buy it, some dealers are in a position where they must offer it in certain states. And that's probably a good thing, because then the consumer is more informed and aware of the things that they can purchase. So a scenario about how gap may help you. So suppose you were to buy a new car for $40,000 and you finance the entire amount over, say, a 60-month period. 8 months after you purchase the vehicle, you get into an accident, and unfortunately, sadly, and this has happened to me and many others, the car is deemed a total loss. It can't be fixed, or fixing it is more expensive than replacing it would be. So, or repairing it would be. So in this case, the insurance company for the other driver, would pay you the value of the vehicle. Now, even though you purchased it for $40,000 8 months before, at this point in time, let's say it's worth $30,000 because of depreciation and now because of the accident. But you owe at least $36,000 on the loan and possibly more. Now, if the other insurance company has enough property damage liability to pay the $30,000, you're still going to be in the hole for $6,000. But gap insurance would take care of that $6,000 difference between what the insurance company paid for the car and what your loan is worth, to ensure that you won't have to come out of pocket at the time of an accident. So you can understand why gap is a very, very important thing. Now, what are the situations where you should consider purchasing gap? Well, anytime you're financing a vehicle for over, say, 48 months, it's probably a good idea to look into gap insurance. When you're only placing a small amount down on a vehicle, a real low down payment, or anytime you consider you could be at risk winding up upside down in your financing. So contrapositive to that, when should you not purchase gap? Well, you probably don't need to purchase gap if you were to put 20% or more down on a down payment. At that point in time, you're probably enough ahead of the value that you're not going to wind up upside down. However, it still might not be a bad idea to consider it. And obviously, you wouldn't use gap insurance or purchase it if you're purchasing a vehicle for cash, because then obviously there would be no need. The replacement value from the insurance company would simply be stroked in a check to you. Another important thing to remember, if anybody is in a position where their vehicle is totaled and repairs have not been performed on the vehicle and the vehicle is sitting in an impound lot, remember, it's collecting fees for sitting in an impound lot. So make sure the insurance company that's going to total your vehicle is able to have access to that vehicle. Make sure you take all your things out of the vehicle so that when they come, they can take it. Also, that's very, very important. But at the same time, you also want to make sure in the event of a total loss of the vehicle that you have your gap in place and that it's functioning in such a way that it's actually helping you to pay your vehicle off. But watch out. And the reason I'm a little hung up on this because it's a little bit weird to me actually that this would be the case. But just as with any insurance company, anytime you purchase GAP, you're purchasing a contract. So, you know, there are duties and conditions in a contract that have to be adhered to and met. So make sure you read the fine print on these. And I know a lot of people that have purchased GAP seem to be unhappy sometimes at how the arrangement has sort of worked out. And there are certain times where GAP can become excluded as a creature of the contract. There may be some times when it may not apply the way you want it to. One example would be if you don't maintain both comprehensive and collision insurance on the vehicle. The GAP insurer might require that. The second way would be if suppose you were to have non-factory customized parts installed on the vehicle. You know, the GAP insurer may not want to consider that they're going to be liable for non-factory installed parts on a vehicle. They may not want to cover money that's rolled in to a financing agreement from a prior loan. Sometimes people are in vehicle accidents where they wind up upside down in a purchase situation. They end up having to try to salvage the situation by going and purchasing another vehicle and rolling the equity that, or not the equity, rolling the debt from the past vehicle into the new vehicle. So you have to watch out that GAP may or may not cover that. Also, costs of extended warranties are something that often may get deducted at the time of a total loss. So you may have that extra money sitting out there that GAP's not going to cover. Sometimes you can void GAP coverage, or it won't account for overdue lease or loan payments. And that's the situation where your car is sitting in an impound lot and you're still obligated to make payments on the car. And a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, if I don't have possession of the car, well, why do I have to still make payments of it if it's total loss? Well, your arrangement is a contract with the finance company, and you need to fulfill your part of the contract. You have duties that you have an obligation to perform, and part of those is to make sure you're making payments until the at-fault insurance party or whichever insurance party is going to be stroking a check for your car pays the finance company what they're owed or whatever portion of it that they're going to pay. And of course, if you have GAP in place, then GAP may cover the shortfall on what the insurance company for the at-fault party is going to pay the finance company for your vehicle. But remember, you still have that obligation to make payments on the car, and don't destroy your credit by thinking that you don't just because you don't have it in your possession and you think it's unfair. It's very, very important. And that's pretty much it. So remember too, you have the purchase option with GAP. You can buy it through the finance company or through the dealership that's financing your vehicle, but you can also shop around through private insurance. Go to your own insurance company, your own auto insurance, see what kind of GAP they offer, see what kind of terms, and have a real discussion with the adjuster or an insurance agent over whether or not GAP is something that would be for you. I mentioned the times when it may be a good idea, but you should always have this discussion and ask a lot of questions, particularly of insurance agents, and make them aware of all of the information that is relevant to them writing you a policy, because you don't want to suffer from their poor underwriting later on. But folks, that's it. Thank you very much for tuning in. This was a little bit of a shorter segment than I usually do, but I appreciate you coming, and certainly your criticisms, your comments, and I often base entire segments on those things. And you know, this one in particular was based upon a client right now that had that very thing happen. His car is totaled. However, he is upside down in the vehicle and does not have GAP insurance. So I would urge people to purchase that for themselves. But thank you very much, folks, and feel free to like, share, and comment below. And thank you for tuning in. Have a great week.